right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, Nick Walker. A couple new physique updates of Nick Walker, and also he talks a little bit more about why he left his coach, Kyle Wilkes. So this clip is from Fuad's podcast, and Nick says, well, here, I'll just roll the clip for you guys here.
I don't, because if I start, it's just I'm gonna literally go the fuck in. So I'm gonna be the bigger person again for the thousandth time in my life, and I'm just gonna say I just did not like the way his methods were. It didn't align with what I do, and it was just best that I started to do my own thing.
So Nick says I'm going to be the bigger person again for the 1,000th time in my life, and I'm just going to say I did not like the way his methods were. It didn't align with what I do, and it was just best that I started to do my own thing. And I think, I want to be fair to Nick here because there's a lot of people dunking on Nick right now for leaving yet another coach. And yes, Nick has kind of bounced from coach to coach. It seems like that has kind of become almost a pattern with him. But to Nick's credit, he did call him. He didn't just ghost him. He didn't just block him. He called him and said, I don't want to work together anymore. And as a bodybuilder, I do feel like if you don't like your coaching situation, you shouldn't, I guess you shouldn't feel obligated to stay. And if you don't like their methods or what they're doing and you want to go and work with someone else, coach yourself, whatever, and you give them a phone call and express that, is it that big of a deal, I guess is the question. Now, I think obviously the concern from bodybuilding fans is that on face value, it looks like what Nick is doing is as soon as he has a bad placing, blames the coach, leaves the coach. On face value, it does look like that. I do get that, and I agree with that, actually. It does kind of look that way. He stays with him for New York. He stays with him for Pittsburgh. 2 very good looks, one of them being a win. Bad Olympia placing, splits with the coach. I would have liked to see Nick stick with Kyle, take the information from the Olympia placing and the Olympia look, try to fix it and come back and do another show. But Nick is the bodybuilder. If Nick doesn't want to do that, he doesn't really have to. And honestly, they did unfollow each other, or at least I believe Kyle said he didn't unfollow Nick, but Nick removed him as a follower, and then Nick unfollowed him. But aside from that, and aside from Nick saying he didn't like the Pittsburgh look, which seemed to be the biggest thing that Kyle had an issue with when I was watching the podcast of Kyle address it, aside from those 2 things, there doesn't seem to be any real drama about this decision. It does kind of seem like Nick is saying, I didn't like my Olympia look. I don't like my coach's methods. I want to try something different. It does seem like, based on what we've heard so far, there might not be much more to it than that. And Nick has been through so many coaches at this point. Like I said, I get it and I agree with that. I think it is alarming as a Nick Walker fan to see him change coaches this many times. But I guess we never really know. Sometimes it's valid, sometimes it's not. And like I said in a previous video, I feel like sometimes the role of a coach may be overstated, and maybe if an athlete is just that good, they're just that good. Samson being the prime example of that, being prepped by his wife. No disrespect to his wife, but he won the Olympia after leaving Milos, his coach, to be coached by his wife. And obviously that's not accounting for this year, but Samson did win the Olympia after leaving his coach and doing his own thing. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to be the case for Nick, but maybe it could be. We've seen it recently happen. And so while we kind of sit here and speculate what's going to be next for Nick, I think it might still be the Arnold. Samson is also an interesting conversation, too. I saw a post on Instagram the other day that said, Samson has not won a single show that he's competed in since he won the Olympia. And I thought that was an interesting fact. The Arnold this year, the Olympia this year, and Prague this year. After Samson won the Olympia, he lost every show after that. And it really does beg the question, what's next for Samson? Possibly the Arnold. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have a feeling if Samson does do the Arnold, I feel like he's not going to win it. I feel like it's too soon after the Olympia in Prague, and I feel like he's on a losing streak right now. That's really kind of the fact of the matter. I'm thinking this is probably a back to the drawing board moment for Samson after the Prague show. And I think you think about, like, you've already got Martin and Andrew Jack confirmed that they're doing the Arnold. I don't think that in a couple of months Samson is going to turn around and beat Andrew and Martin again. I think if Martin keeps bringing what he brought in Prague, he's only going to be moving up. I can't see him moving backwards if he keeps bringing looks like that. And we all know how everybody feels about Andrew Jack. I think that now that Andrew has figured out what he needs to bring to be in that top 3 conversation, it's going to take a lot for Samson to come back and get him out of it. Now, I did see this post earlier today. This is on this Fit Dude's bodybuilding Facebook page. That is Tarek El Gundy saying Derek Lunsford is competing in the 2026 Arnold Classic. Now, I sent this to some of the folks at the Arnold just to verify it. And they said, to their knowledge, as of right now, they haven't heard from him and he's not doing it. Now, I was a little surprised to see this post because we heard what Derek said at the Sunday seminar after the Olympia. He said that he's taking a break. He wants to get back to his family. He won the 3 shows that he wanted to win in 2025. The Pittsburgh, the Arnold, the Olympia, the Triple Crown. He's got another kid on the way. He just announced that recently, another baby on the way. I don't think that we see Derek do this show. And on top of that, I don't think he probably wants to. I feel like Derek needs and wants this break from competing. Because look, every time he competes, especially the Olympia, look at the wave of hate that Derek has gotten this year. And look, I get it. People don't like Derek's physique. They don't like his biceps. And trust me, I agree. I liked Hadi Chupin better, but I'm not a judge. I would have rather seen Hadi win than Derek. That's legitimately what I think. I get it. But I'm kind of starting to feel bad for Derek because, again, Derek's not a judge. Derek did not pick himself to win the show. So I think if you don't like the result, take it up with the judges. Don't take it up with Derek. Derek, it's not his fault that he won. And I kind of feel bad for him because I did a short video about this yesterday. Derek's coach, Chris Aceto, on RX Muscle was talking about what happened with Derek. So just to catch you guys up, backstage at the 2025 Mr. Olympia, Derek wasn't feeling well. If you guys noticed, and most of you guys are pretty astute bodybuilding fans, so you guys noticed, that when they did the finals routines at the Olympia, Derek was the last person to go, not Samson. A lot of people noticed this because every year at the Olympia, the returning defending champion is always the last to go. Derek was not the returning defending champion. Samson is. So why was Derek last and not Samson? That was a big point of discussion. On the microphone, Bob Chicarilla made a point to say that Derek wasn't feeling well backstage, and that was the reason for the slight delay with the start time of finals. I believe Men's Open Bodybuilding started maybe 30 minutes late, and then Derek was moved to the end of the individual routines. He was the very last guy. So a lot of people, and I've seen all kinds of speculation about what was going on with this. The diuretics thing I saw people saying that he passed out. I saw people saying he was having chest pains. I saw everything in between. And Derek's coach, Chris Aceto, came out to clarify and said that Derek was having a panic attack backstage at the Olympia. It was his anxiety getting the best of him. Here's what Chris Aceto had to say in full.
Before I tell you what it's got to do with, I wanted to discount the idea that he had any serious health issue at all backstage. His pupils were not dilated. He was not sweating. He was not sweating profusely. His blood pressure was not high. You can interpret that, Dave. His blood pressure
we're low. We're low.
His blood sugar, which indicates things, as you know, was 100% normal. His resting heart rate was that of a tennis father sitting in the stands of a tennis match, which means his resting heart rate was 100% normal. He had no cramps whatsoever. No cramps whatsoever. I don't know how many times I have to say that. So this idea that he was cramping up or had any issues with diuretics is ridiculous. At the Olympia, he had backstage a panic attack. And so when I was called, the reason I walked from my seat from you through the venue, like I was walking bored through the main mall, is because I was surprised that he had asked Freddie to see if Chris could come backstage. And I thought he would just, he must be having a lot of anxiety if he asked me for me to come backstage. So when I came backstage, I recognized that it was greater than anxiety this time. And usually when I could, connect with him quickly and joke around or, just there's a lot of personal stuff that I talked to him about that I know how to be genuine with him. That's it. To be genuine with him, to listen to him, to be able to like alleviate anxiety. And in this case, it was beyond that. And I saw that because I was thinking, okay, this is not working. And he's a little bit, I'm not familiar with panic attacks either. So I wasn't sure. What he said after the show to me, Chris, I know my anxiety and, I can work through that, but I didn't know what a panic attack even really was. So I couldn't recognize it or recognize what was happening.
Now, look, I bring this up to say, I think it's important to understand why he went last and that he wasn't having a medical emergency, or at least that's what they're saying. I think that's important to clear that up for one. But for two, I kind of imagine that panic attack could have been caused by Derek seeing the discussion online. Now, this was before the show was over, so it wasn't nearly what it is now because we didn't know that Derek had won yet. But I was reading the comments even after prejudging before finals had started, and people just do not like Derek's physique. They did not like that he was in the middle at prejudging. They didn't like that he was being compared for the win. I kind of imagine that is something that Derek started to see, and I think that could be the reason for the panic attack. And I know people will just say, well, he's a pro bodybuilder. He should have thicker skin. He should get over it. Fine, that's fine. I still do just feel a little bit bad for him. And especially now, because if he was having that type of anxiety reaction before finals was over about the stress and the pressure or whatever, imagine how he probably feels now that the result is out and he won and beat Hottie and Andrew. Imagine how he feels now if he looks at any comments on social media or reads anything about the Olympia result. I don't think he's going to be very happy. And I say all that to say, when it comes to the Arnold, and he's already told us he wants a break and wants to focus on his family, and he's got another baby on the way, I believe that, and I also take this into consideration. If he's looking at everything on social media right now, which I'm sure there's no way he hasn't seen, like, the overwhelming negative response to his win. I think the majority of bodybuilding fans, like more than 50%, seem to disagree with him winning. I bet mentally he's exhausted. I bet he's thinking, what more can I do at this point? I won the Pittsburgh. I won the Arnold. I won the Olympia. And still, they don't like my physique. Then every time I win a show, it seems like the fans just dislike me more. And yes, it's $750,000. It's a lot of money. And maybe he says screw it and does it anyway because the money is probably worth more than the fan response here if he wins. But if he's already mentally exhausted enough that he is impacting the way the Olympia finals is run with his anxiety, I think he probably should take a break. I think he probably should sit out the Arnold. He had a financially fantastic year. By winning the Arnold, Pittsburgh, and Olympia is big just in titles alone, but the amount of money he won was crazy between those three shows in one calendar year. He doesn't necessarily need the $750,000 at the Arnold next year, but it is a lot of money. I think take a mental break. I would love to see Hottie do this Arnold. I would love to see, we already know Andrew and Martin. Between those three guys, I would love to see one of the three win the Arnold, Hottie or Andrew or Martin. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think the future holds for really all of these guys that we talked about in this video? Nick Walker, Samson Dowda, Derek Lunsford. What do you think the next show is going to be for these guys? And I just do think, I've seen people say, well, why are you being so nice to Derek Lunsford? And I just do think, it's important to keep in mind, Derek is just the competitor. The judges picked him to win. If you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at the judges. But I just kind of feel bad for Derek. I've looked at the comments. He's getting an enormous amount of hate right now. And all he did was win. He just was picked to win. And it's kind of an interesting phenomena that I don't think we've really seen before. We've maybe seen glimpses of it in the past, but it's almost to the point now where if Derek winning the Olympia this year, it's almost just like the win made him more hated. And this is probably the first time in bodybuilding history that I think if Derek wins the Olympia next year, again, it would almost be better for him to not win. I think the amount of hate that Derek would get if he wins the Olympia again next year makes it almost not even worth it to win that title. I don't even think it matters how he looks. If he's on, if he's off, if he's 110%, if he's 120%, if he beats Hadi and Andrew again next year, no matter how he looks, I think people will lose their minds. And it's an interesting dilemma to think of. You're winning the Olympia title, but it's almost not even worth it, and it might not even be worth it for him at this point. Because, I mean, you guys know, you guys see it. This is the most hate I think I've seen a bodybuilder get since, like 2017 Phil Heath. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.